Good. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, our first guest tonight is a wonderful comedian who has been seen all over. She's got regular gigs over there at the Stand Up New York, New York Comedy Club, New Stand York Club, all the New York Stand variations. You can find her. She's just terrific, and she's got a great podcast we're going to talk about. Katie Hannigan is here, ladies and gentlemen. Katie. Dancers, everybody. And Lillian's finally found her own place, so we're excited for her. Katie, how are you?
Oh, I'm wonderful. Thank you.
Yes, I gather you came all the way from the Upper West Side.
Yes. You know, I don't usually stray that far above 14th Street, but I made it back, thank God.
I haven't been up there in years. What's it like?
Oh, there's so many young people.
Is that true?
Oh my God, it's like traveling back in time. Oh my God.
That's delightful. And of course, you recently made your late night debut on the Late Night with Stephen Colbert.
I did,
Late
yes.
Show with Stephen
Thank
Colbert.
you.
Yes,
Thank you so much. God bless America.
Yep, that was a lot of fun for you.
It was very fun. I had a great time. The set went well.
Yes.
And then I got drunk. So that was it.
Best
in a
case
nutshell.
scenario.
Yeah.
That's terrific. Now, I know that one of the things you talk about in the comedy is looks can be deceiving.
It's true.
And you have kind of a kindergarten teacher kind of a look. Although I would argue you'd be perfectly at home on the Snowpiercer.
That's
train that goes around the earth.
Now, who do you think I would be? I would be like in the upper classes, do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see myself, living it up, having a cocktail on a train that never stopped.
Yeah. Although the cocktail's also made out of roaches.
Were they?
I don't remember.
I don't remember that part. I've watched it many times.
Yes, I'm sure
as many as you could.
Now you do so many things, but one of the things that you do, you have this podcast about the apocalypse.
Yes.
It's called Apocalypse.
Apodcalypse.
Yes.
Yes. It is a pun.
I got it. It's fun with words. We can have that.
Yeah, at the end of the world, why not? That's all you have left.
Exactly.
There's no societal breakdown. Just have a little fun.
Now, were you always fascinated in that subject?
Yes, I'm a huge fan of science fiction and dystopia.
Yep.
And also anything post-apocalyptic I love.
You love it. Mm-hmm. So your Will Smith vehicles, probably number one.
Sure.
Sure. What's that one? I Legend? I Robot?
I Am Legend.
I Am Legend, yeah.
Yeah, great. Saw it in the theater, if you can believe it, years ago.
Yeah. Was that a good experience?
Yes, I do remember. I don't actually love vampires.
Yeah.
But I Am Legend, actually, that was the book, which was written, I believe, in the late 50s. That was one of the very first impetus for the zombie phenomenon that we have, which is so popular now.
Well, let's talk about that because I'm not a big lobster fan. Not a big zombie fan. And if you have because here's why lobster came to my mind, because I watched a lobster eat another lobster. And that was so disturbing that reminded me of zombies.
Where on earth was that?
Maine, of course.
Oh, of course, Maine. They're all cannibals.
It was gross. It was gross. And that's what happens with the zombies. They're gross, aren't they?
They're quite gross. I would say that, Dale.
And how the podcast that you have, it takes place in the end times?
It takes place in the end times, exactly. In it's a bunker of sorts that we. So the first season we had, we did a 30-episode season. We're getting ready to start season 2, so look out. But it does take place in the end times in a bunker that we have collected ourselves in, and then our last few episodes we actually did in a few places around the country. So we were on the run. Our bunker was destroyed, and we had to kind of,
Sure.
go. I was traveling, so to tie it in.
That's the reason for you to be in Chicago.
Yes.
So now, what is the end time that has? What is the reason for the apocalypse that has occurred?
Well, I just feel like in pop culture, there's so many more references of the apocalypse now than there have ever been.
Yeah.
And we wanted to analyze it and analyze different. Of course, we have all these things in the news all the time. Donald Trump, the climate summit. the evidence of mass extinction that's occurring now. So there's all these different things that contribute to this kind of, it's almost we have this like low-level hysteria. The Ebola crisis that we had in 2014,
Yep.
by the way, now it's the second biggest Ebola outbreak happening now in the Congo. Did you hear about that?
No,
That's
I haven't
true.
heard about it.
400 people have died
Wow.
so far. So, you know, it's like we live in this world, we have a ton of technology, but also, you know, a lot of scariness as well.
Sure. How do you think the world will end, though?
I think it's either going to be financial collapse. I think my top three are financial collapse.
Can we hear it for financial collapse?
Financial collapse. No.
People are excited.
Which
Yep.
my parents, that's their prepper flavor. They're getting
Yep.
ready for that one.
Yep. Where are they?
In Indiana.
Indiana. Okay.
Yes. Safe and sound.
Good. A soon-to-be coastal city.
Yes. So financial collapse, pandemic, which I think is right up there, and the last one, which is detailed in like so many different post-apocalyptic scenarios, which would be like mass extinction, agriculture collapse, you know, starvation. Okay, we have a fan. Great.
Agriculture collapse.
Yeah.
People are really rooting for
Like
that.
the acidification of the oceans, you know, freshwater scarcity, stuff
Yep.
like that.
All the good things.
Yeah, oh, fun. Oh, I used 2 straws here, so I apologize.
Uh-oh.
They're very small, but you know, I don't like to
Yikes.
put my mouth on the glass.
No, why would you? Now, what do we need to have in our to-go kit if we have to get out of a place?
Well, you know, one guest we had on, Jordan Jensen, she had the best survival pack that I've ever heard of. It was just 3 Xanax. Just figure it out as you go. 3 Xanax and a handgun. That's what I would say. Good things to always have ready to go at any time. Cash, or if you have any, you know, precious metals that you can trade for goods.
I do.
Passport, yeah. Keep
Yep.
a few little gold nuggets on the bedside. Also, any aspirins or prescription medication that you have, and you should just have that in any scenario.
Yep.
Like, it might not be an apocalypse, but you might need to leave because of a war or something. Who knows?
You know the 2 things always in my kit?
Please tell me.
Toothbrush and a sense of humor. Because you want to smell good. What do you think about comedy in the end times? You think it has a role? Because you gotta laugh, don't you,
Well,
Katie?
you know,
gotta laugh.
oh, you have to laugh. How will we get through it?
How will we get through it if we don't laugh?
Sometimes I pray for the apocalypse just because, you know, I don't want to keep going on this trajectory of a career and just watch myself fall further and further from my small success. I had a great dream once. I have a lot of recurring dreams about zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
And I had a dream once where I was trapped in a zombie apocalypse. This is years ago when I first started doing open mics, and I was trapped, and I noticed I was with a group of scared ladies, and I thought, you know what? This is a pretty good place for me to try out my bits. And I just put on a show, ladies! And they loved it.
Yeah.
So that was my own mind, but I think, you know, we'll probably have to recover from the trauma one way or another.
Sure. In one way it's sad, but in another way I think maybe I'll finally get listed in Time Out.
Yeah.
Less competition.
I love it.
Maybe. You know, I read an article in a New Yorker, and by the way, if you want to come by and read any, I got a stack of them.
I'd love to come over.
Oh, that would be nice.
Thank you.
That would be nice.
I'm looking for an apartment actually now.
Oh,
Do you have
okay.
a
Well,
room?
if you need to sort of pass the time, there's one that has a great article on Boutros Ghali that I'm dying to dive into, and Jonathan Franzen on birds. Anyhow, I got this New Yorker article, and it talks about the future and the end of the world, and it talks about it happening just with dust. And with all this just yellow dust accumulating. And I think that's kind of a pretty nice way to go. Just 20 years of a soft powder. Building up, it just clogs everything, and then
Yeah,
gone.
I love that. That's another thing too, as I was doing so much research for Apocalypse, is there's a lot of very likely apocalyptic scenarios that we're all facing, but there's also some very absurd, bizarre ones.
Yeah.
There's one like, I don't know if you ever read Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut.
Yeah.
And in that one, he has an invention called Ice 9. And anytime it touches a water molecule, it freezes everything around it. So basically, if it touches the ocean, it's solid. It creates like a solid mass. And that was actually a metaphor for the atomic bomb.
Oh,
the
yeah.
power of the
Yep.
invention.
Yeah.
But, there's all kinds of kooky things that can happen. I like dust. Fun. How about purple?
So this kind of like kindly demeanor also hides darkness, doesn't it, Katie? And what do you think is the root of that darkness?
Well, my dad had a real fucked up sense of humor. He was great with people, not with kids. And he would say...
Lucky for you.
Yeah, I mean, great guy. But yeah, again, not with kids. But he would say things like, he would do a little prank when we would take my mom, she would run into the store, and he would just pretend to drive away as though we were abandoning my mother. Fun bit. Yeah, it's pretty traumatizing. Or he would do a couple other ones. He would pretend to be angry as a joke. He would, get over here! I got you a present, surprise! So I'm in therapy. Another one he would do was this is a big runner in my house. He would come and he would go as though he was gonna hit you in the face, and then just scratch his head. Dad. Anyway, fun guy.
He sounds like fun.
Yeah, fun guy.
Yeah, that sounds like you're always a little bit on edge, and that's a nice thing for the home.
Yeah, you never really feel safe, which is probably why I have a podcast about the apocalypse.
That's right. And do you do things that give you comfort? Do you have some of the gravity blankets? Do you sleep with some of those?
I bought a gravity blanket only when I was single, just to give me that illusion of the comfort of a lover.
A lover that slept on top of you.
Yeah, that's how I like it. I like a man to just lay his weight on me. No sex, just pressure.
Just slowly push me into the mattress.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I know. I meditate. I mean, I'm kind of on the verge of spiraling at any moment, so I have to do a lot to keep myself from going down.
Yeah. Well, we all do, don't we?
Yeah, so we'd have our processes.
Yeah. And were you a kid that had were tuned into the news, that kind of thing?
I remember when I was about 7, they had that the horrific E. coli outbreak at the Jack in the Box.
Oh yeah, we remember that, right?
Yes,
you folks remember that?
We remember.
Yeah. Oh. Jack in the Box, by the way, would be much more successful if they just
hadn't killed the child with that E. coli outbreak.
Yeah, I think that was really kind of
Sorry,
a low
what
point.
were you going to say?
I was going to say they serve too many things.
Oh.
They diversified, but also your thing is solid too. But you don't need to get a taco at a burger place. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're not going to do that well.
I've actually never been there. I never ate fast food ever since I read that article.
Oh yeah.
When I was 7.
That would be tough.
So that was just one in a series of obsessions that I had from reading horrifying news stories.
Yeah. And as you see, I was tuned in. I was probably the only kid in elementary school that was very concerned about the Libyan airstrikes that Reagan had ordered.
So you were more of a global news kid.
I had a subscription to Time and National Geographic, and that really screws you up.
Yeah. Great photos, though.
Great photos.
I love the photos.
Yep. I learned a lot about bodies as a young person.
Oh,
Pretty much all I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
How about that?
Now you're going to have some shows that are coming up. How frequently is the apocalypse? When season 2 starts?
So season 2 is going to start in April. We started our season 1 in April, but it's on iTunes, so please check it out. Season 2, we're very excited. We're finally going to tackle one of my absolute all-time favorite apocalyptic scenarios, the bubonic plague.
Right.
And so I'm very thrilled for that. So keep your eyes open. But I do have. I mean, if the world is, if we're even still here, my God, anything could happen.
Yep.
But I'm performing around town, so I have my website, www, although we don't really need that anymore, but it's katiehannigan.com.
There it is.
And if shows, I'm around all the time.
Well, I'm glad you were around here tonight. Katie Hannigan, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. How about that?